It's one of our favorite weeks of the entire year because it is different. Welcome to WGC-Dell Technologies Match Play Week. And this is Cash Out with the coaches. And you got to wonder who my partner, Travis Fulton, is rooting for this year at the NCAA tournament. By the way, if you guys lose this year, it's an embarrassment. You are so much better than everybody else. It's crazy. How are you, Trav?
I'm good, man. Yeah, they've got some weapons. They can score points. And, they didn't even play their best against Oklahoma and still won by 16. They actually kind of struggled a little bit. They've got the dogs. This is the year, I think, for the Zags to pull it off for sure. Although I can tell you, Michigan is good. And I like the size of Alabama. I mean, they're long, they're fast, they can run. I think they're a little bit of a sleeper. Watch out for the Tide.
I think this has been the most entertaining March Madness I've seen in years because of all the upsets. But we have our own March Madness this week.
Yes.
And we're gonna get into the match play in a couple of minutes. But of course, before we look forward, we have to look back. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, on this show, we educate and we entertain. We talk about the next event, but also talk about what happened last week. And Trav, if you were lucky enough to have Matt Jones at plus 7,000, you took that ticket straight to the pay window. Not too many people did. But He really was from the 61 on Thursday all the way through. Never shot over par. Only player to do that. Certainly his second PGA Tour win. He was the class of the field.
Yeah, he's a cool story. I've met Matt before. Really good guy from Australia. He's worked with the same coach for 25 years, believe it or not. I mean, that's just unheard of. 25 years he's worked with Gary Barter out of Australia. Of course, it's been, I think, 6 years since he won in Houston, 6 or 7 years. When he sunk that long putt to get into the playoff, and then he chipped in on Matt Kuchar.
It was amazing.
I remember that tournament so well. And then here he is. He was showing decent form coming in, and just put him away. I mean, no one made a run on Sunday at him, and he just was able to kind of fairways and greens. Granted, that's tough to do with the Bear Trap, but the Bear Trap wasn't playing that difficult on Sunday. I think it was actually under par. So things kind of lined up for him as well. I mean, he obviously played very well. The field was kind of down and no one really made a run at him on Sunday. I tweeted out his swing coach and I said, look, tell me Matt Jones's golf swing is not as good as Adam Scott. I mean, it's as good. It is a pure golf swing that transfers from driver all the way down to the wedge.
And on top of everything else, he's the fastest player on tour. If you look down, I was calling on PGA Tour Live. I literally had to stop talking before he would put the ball down. Because otherwise I was talking through his swing. So you don't have to play slow in order to play really good golf. So now he's going to move up to 11th in the FedEx Cup standings. It was really hard for me, Trav, calling it because I want everybody to do well. And there were so many players that a high finish would have done wonders for their bank account, but also for the FedEx Cup point standings. And watching guys just fall down the leaderboard and knowing that they're literally leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the course, that was hard to watch everybody except Matt Jones. They really got beat up on the Bear Trap.
Yeah, CT Pond probably made the most of his week. He's a guy that I think out of University of Washington, really good amateur player, doesn't hit it very far. I think the modern games kind of passed him by. He needed to have a good week, make some money. He did. I think Aaron Wise, it was good to see him pop again and play well. This was a good player out of Oregon. You notice this Pac-12 theme all of a sudden, all these young players in golf and now the Pac-12 just absolutely crushing it in the tournament this year. So I think, when you look at Aaron Wise, it was good to see him play well. I tweeted out going into the weekend, the putter was the club that you had to watch. And, I think his ball striking is good enough to win again. But the putter can be inconsistent. And we saw the 4-putt from, 12 feet, missed some other ones. So I think if he can continue to iron that out, he's a player that can go. He's got that tee to green game. I think he's long enough, but he's got to get the putter rectified. So it was good to see him, kind of run up the leaderboard, make some money. It's been a while. But hey, it's a WGC. The big boys are back and we're ready to roll.
Well, I have a nice story that's going to be a nice segue into the match play this week.
Okay.
As Phil was playing 6 at the Honda Classic, it was at, par 4, water down the left, and then cart path on the right. He went way to the right in his third round. So he had there was cords there. So he had to drop his ball. So he took that ball out of play. He hits one. It hits the cart path, goes all the way behind the green, has to drop again. He takes that ball out of play. Then he hits a 64-degree over the water tower. It was like a Happy Gilmore moment. Somehow gets it on the green and makes a long putt for par. So he used 3 balls, still parred it, and CT Pan had a more traditional par. They walk onto the tee at 7. Phil looks at CT and says, hey, by the way, what'd you get on that hole? And he goes, a par. He goes, nice. He goes, nice half. And everybody busted up laughing. And then they went on. He said, nice half, as if they were playing match play. He used awesome. 3 balls. I guarantee the only golfer in the history of the game to use 3 balls on a hole and still make a par. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible.
I don't think I've never heard that before. Hey, but good to see Phil get some accuracy again, right? I think you watched the show because we were talking about it a few weeks ago. It's like, hey, Phil, reel it in a little bit.
Back. Yeah,
don't worry about how far you're hitting it. Get some accuracy. And he did. He played well at the Players, played well at PGA National, 2 courses that you would think the way that he was hitting it, he would have been crushed, but not the case.
He shot -2, and on the 11th hole, he was 6 over par. And on Sunday, when he hit it in the gunch again, he was like, this hole is going to be the death of me. So minus the 11th hole, he's got a top 5 finish last week.
Yeah.
And that's hard to fathom. All right, let's get into it. So this is one of the great weekends of the year. We're not going to do our normal $100 make 5 picks. What we're going to do here, because if you haven't printed out your bracket yet, you can go to pgatour.com/bracket, print it out. You can be a part of Trav tweeted it out last night. We're doing our own fantasy bracket. You play against Travis. You can play against myself. And all of the rules are there. We're just going to go through our bracket, who we pick coming out of each region, our final 4, and then who we're picking as our champion. So DJ is the overall number 1 seed, Trav. So we're going to go to his region first. And there's some really good match play names within this region. Kind of take us through your thought process and who you have coming out of this region.
Well, I think this is a course, Austin Country Club, where it's pretty open off the tee. You can certainly play it as the Bomber's Paradise, as we've seen some guys win here, like a Bubba Watson. But then you can also strategically go about it, wedge play, but you're going to have to make some putts, right, Coach? I mean, you're going to have to win 3 matches to come out of your pod. And then if you want to win the whole thing, you got to win 7 matches. So give me someone that's going to get a hot putter. So when you look at this top region up here in the Northwest region, if you will, Dustin Johnson, the number 1 seed. I'm gonna go ahead and advance Dustin Johnson out of that pod there. Kevin Na is certainly someone to look at. I don't even think DJ knows who McIntyre is. So he's just gonna cruise right on past him. And DJ is gonna take on. Now I've spent a lot of time on this quad here, on this pod here, and I was gonna go with Leash, but I'm changing my mind, Cody. Don't put it in there. I'm going Russell Henley. I think Henley's playing. I think Henley's playing the best golf right now of these 4. Sanjay's playing well. I think Sanjay's really just putting extremely well right now. His iron game's been okay, but I like Henley. I think Henley is the player coming out of this region right here. I think Sanjay. He'll hit the brakes here soon. Usually when I do pick him is when he hits it. So let's go with Henley. Moving on down here. I'm going to go Paul Casey out of that next one. And he's going to take on Terrell Hatton. Paul Casey's playing some great golf right now. Very consistent ball striker. Can he do enough with the putter? He's shown signs. But you know how I feel about Terrell Hatton. I think Terrell Hatton is just on the rise. Certainly a top 10 player in the world.
Love him.
Has no weaknesses in his game. And in fact, go ahead and move Hatton past Paul Casey to take on Dustin Johnson. I talked to Dustin Johnson's coach this morning for the Stripe Show podcast. And, he had a little issue there in Mexico, lost 10 putting. They worked some things out. 4.5.
Whoa. Did you say lost 10?
Notice how I scooted. Yeah. Notice how I scooted past that quick.
Yeah. Holy cow. That's hard to do, by the way. It's hard to do.
But they cleaned it up. +4 at Sawgrass. Been struggling a little bit with the driver. He's got that new driver in his bag. He's been kind of working on a few things there. I think they've got it dialed in now. So look at DJ to move it all the way here through into the corners against Hatton, but not do enough with the putter. And Terrell Hatton will be coming out.
Wow.
Of this region. You heard it here first. I've been preaching his name for years, and he's arrived now out of this region.
The reason I like that pick, if it does happen, is because I can listen to Terrell Hatton on my Wired Up, and he'll be a part of PGA Tour Live starting at 10:15 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday. And when you hear him talk and you hear how frustrated he gets, but then how elated he gets from a good shot, when you take that into match play, oh my goodness, how much more entertaining is that going to be when maybe we'll get a little trash talking towards his opponent. All right, Cody put mine up, and I don't need to go through every matchup because Travis did an amazing job breaking down several players. So you can go ahead and fill mine out as I just kind of talk through it. I'm going to take DJ out of that, Sun JM, Casey, and Sergio. But Casey and Sergio are two guys that we know, Trav, that in the Ryder Cup, they changed the rules so Paul Casey could play. And then he was dynamic when he finally got to be on the team. These guys thrive off of match play. So when people are trying to decide not only who you're going to take in your bracket, but also there's going to be bets you want to make throughout the entire week, look at guys that are really good in match play and have a history of being good in this style of format. Now, it's not for everybody. These two, it really is. Then I'm going to go Sunjay past DJ. I just don't think DJ is motivated. I don't think he's focused. And Sunjay played last week, and there's no substitute for play. I'm doing this. This pick was for you, Trav. I'm going to take Casey past Sergio, and then Casey's going to go through because Casey is a guy, very quiet. And when you got to play 3 matches to get through, and remember, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, ADBC on Wednesday. I also think it matters who you play and in what order. And it kind of matches up well for Paul Casey to come through. And I think Sunjay M is going to be tired by Saturday. Paul Casey will not. I think Paul Casey gets through to the Final Four.
Sunjay doesn't get tired. He plays all the time. It's a good pick. I mean, Paul Casey, 5th at the Players, 10th at API, 5th at the AT&T. I mean, this guy's playing some good golf, no question. He's a good match player. So we both are big on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got Casey coming out. I've got Hatton. Here we go.
Europeans. All right, let's move to the Bryson D Chambeau region. Kind of take us through your thought process in this one, Trav.
Well, I'm going to go with Bryson out of here. Watch out for Siwoo Kim. He can get it going. He loves Pete Dye Designs. That's a real upset in the making there. Watch out for Siwoo. But I will give you an upset in the next one. Dylan Fratelli. Okay. I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him out of this group. 17% of the longest shot in the pod wins, historically speaking. Okay. So it's going to happen. And it's in the 17% world. So I'm going to go with Fratelli here. That's going to be my upset. And then moving on down, I think this Victor Hovland pod is a tough one. Streelman's playing good. Wiesberger is good at this facility here. Answer, I think this is a great spot for him.
I agree.
Spent a lot of time on this one, but I just think Victor Hovland's the class of this. And I go back to concession. Hovland just looked next level to me. You need a short game here. The greens are small, but I'll tell you what, he will ball strike your face off. I mean, he will hit it right down the middle to 10 feet all day. And can he do enough with the putter? I think he will. And then the bottom one here, again, another tough one with Morikawa, Horschel, Homa playing well. This is a good spot for JT Poston. I mean,
nobody's going to think about him. Nobody's going to think about him. Yeah.
This is tough. I said Horschel originally, but I'm going with Homa. I think Homa is just playing too damn good. I mean, I think he's really has stepped it up, and I'm moving Homa in there. So now we've got Bryson ahead of Fratelli. He'll go ahead and move on. And then Hovland versus Homa. Give me Hovland.
Okay. I don't mind this so far.
Give me Bryson to continue the great play. He's going to be fun to watch here at this golf course, in particularly down the stretch, some of these par fours, how he elects to play them. I think this is a course. I think obviously distance is going to give him a little bit of an advantage here. Yeah, Bryson will advance and he'll take on Hatton in the semifinals.
I think that, and I've kind of tweeted this out and said it on the bracket show yesterday, that this format is made for Bryson D Chambeau because whether it's getting in your head, he's going to be past everybody on every tee because he just hits it so far. So you're going to have to hit it before Bryson every single time. And that eventually there's going to be pressure on you to do that. So for mine, I'm taking Bryson out of this region too, but how we get there, we're completely different on our opinions on how this region plays out. Like I have Zalatoris coming out of that Finau pod. Okay. But I like what you said about long shots. You can't pick chalk throughout this because if you do, it's a recipe for disaster. There's going to be upsets or, we know in golf it's not an upset, but statistically it'll be an upset. So I like Zalatoris. I'm also going to take Answer and Horschel because what you said about Answer. He's a ball striking machine too, and I think he's a grinder. And I think eventually that his how much not wisdom, experience he has will play out. And then I have Answer playing D Chambeau in the grade 8. And I think D Chambeau is going to run through this region, no problem whatsoever. No, I don't even need to spend any more time on him. He's the class of this region.
Yeah, I think our rationale is pretty close here, on this one. You could convince me of answer for sure here. You could convince me of JT Poston too. You really could. I've spent I sat there and looked at these bottom 8 in this region forever. Like,
why are you so bullish on Poston there? Why are you so bullish on Poston?
Well, I think Poston, because I think he's a great putter, so, I think he can wedge and putt you here, I mean, I think that's his game, and you get a hot putter, off you go, right? In match play. So I think Poston is a guy that you have to really be careful with here. Don't be surprised to see the 63 seed move on.
It's all about iron play and putting in match play. How are you hitting the ball? And then how are you recovering if you get out of position, making those par putts from 10 feet? They are absolute daggers. All right, let's move up now, Cody, to the JT region. And there's a lot of juice. There's a lot of meat in this region to go through. My goodness. I love how the Dell Technologies computer kind of spits out the name sometimes. It's completely random, and it's all about the computer. But I am trying to figure out, Trav, how all of these names got in this region at the same time. It's amazing. Take us through your thought process.
Well, I feel good about Louis coming out of here. I'm a big JT fan. But, man, it's just like in match play, what are you going to get with JT? I mean, I know that, look, he struggled going into the Players, and then he comes back and wins 64, 68 on the weekend. So I'm going to say he's a lukewarm on the putter, this week over there in Texas. And I'm going to go with Louis. I think Louis is a very good match ball player. And I also think Louis is playing very good golf right now. He has got a lot of high finishes, and I have him taking on Spieth. That's an interesting group there. Corey Connors, one of the best ball strikers on the PGA Tour, iffy with the putter. Where's Wolf's head at? Don't be surprised to see Wolf show up fresh and off he goes. But I just think Spieth has turned the corner back in Texas. He's played this place, so give me Spieth. And then I'll give you another long shot here, Coach. I'm going to go with Harman out of this next one. Cantlay, where's the putter at? Inconsistent. Matsuyama, we know, can be inconsistent. I think it comes down to Ortiz and Harman. Harman's playing great golf, and Harman plays Pete Dye Designs extremely well. So I like Harman coming out of there. And then give me Neiman. I'm a sucker for Neiman. It's like, I don't know what happened to Joaquin last week. I mean, he drove the ball exceptionally well, and if the guy missed the green, it was like, he looked like Victor Hovland for crying out loud out there. Yeah. He couldn't get the ball up and down. Awful chips. Awful. I don't know what happened.
Well, his swing was out of sequence. He does that dip in the head thing, and he was dipping it way more than he normally does. And when that happens, you're the instructor. You know what happens when the head moves more, and he already moved it a lot. What happens there.
I don't think he's hitting it that bad. I think his putting's okay, but I think Neiman advances out of that group. So give me So from there, let's go Spieth. I think Spieth continues the good play. He's got good momentum. He's feeling good. He's confident. He's at home, and he's going to take on Harman. How about that? Jordan Spieth versus Brian Harman, and Spieth gets him on the last hole to advance to the semifinals.
I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of trash talking on Twitter because this is one of the only weeks that we can do it to each other. And our picks could not be any more different, especially in this region.
Yeah.
So, Cody, I want to see my region pull it up because I have a couple, but I think we differ on almost every single thing. I have JT, by the way, coming out of this region. I think his confidence coming out of the Players is just going to be at an all-time high. I think he moves past all of the negativity with that win that he was carrying with him from Hawaii, and then with the grandfather passing away, and then with Tiger. I think it really helps him that Tiger is home now. I know that may sound a little silly, but if my best friend went through that, I would feel better when he got home, and they were really as tight as they could be. But when I go down here, I have Spieth losing to JT. Then I have Cantlay and Reed playing each other. Now, these are absolute match play beasts when you're talking about Cantlay and Reed. Reed is one of the most famous United States Ryder Cuppers really of all time, just based off that one match against Rory. So I got Reed beating Cantlay, and then what a matchup in my grade 8 of JT and Reed. I'm a little scared, Trav, because of the whole chalk thing that never happens. But when I played it out and I looked at my matchups and I had my model, these are the two for me. came out. And the thing I love about this the most is that we actually get to play against each other head up in so many different ways. I love this so much. So I got JT now, Casey, and DeChambeau, 3 of my 4 Final Fours.
Yeah. I mean, you have the chalk model is what you have. It's like, who's got more majors and wins? I'll take him.
That's probably true. All right, let's go down to the Xander Schauffele grouping. And there's a lot of questions, Trav, with Berger in this one, with Schauffele as technically the top seed, but we know he has not been informed lately. Kind of tell me what you thought about all the different matchups in this one.
Well, I think if Jason Day can get back to just, putting like he used to, he's the guy. I think he's improving his approach game. It's always been his weakness. I think Chris Como's done a good job with them. I think Day gets his putter back. He's coming out of that group. Schauffele's in neutral right now. Scheffler, who knows? He's a little bit inconsistent. I know he's coming home, but I'll go with Day, and I'll go with Rory. Rory's made the change. He needed to. He needs to get back organized. Oftentimes, when you make that change, new coach, it's like a fresh chapter, right?
Yeah.
And you'll come out swinging right away, and I think Rory will do that. There's not much unraveled there. He just needs to get his head back on straight, quit chasing distance. So Rory's going to come out of there. And then I'll go with the putter out of the next group. Who knows where Berger's at? I think English has kind of tapered off a little bit for some hot play.
Yes.
And so give me Brendan Todd. I think Brendan Todd will do enough with the putter. And I'll have him taking on my boy, John Rahm, there at the bottom, which is interesting because Rahm and Palmer are like really good friends. And they got paired up there in the same pod. Lowry's starting to come on a little bit. Munoz can have a little fire from time to time. But I think it's time for Rahm now to kind of elevate his game now as we get closer to Augusta. And I think he'll do that. And then, so from there, let's go. Jason Day versus Rory McIlroy. How about that one?
Oh, that would be an amazing Sweet 16 match.
I mean, that you know what's really cool about this course, by the way, before I give you my pick, is the last 6 holes. The last 6 holes, I mean, birdies and eagles everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the 12th, easy hole, 13th, short par 4, 15th, birdie par 5, short 17th, shortest par 4 of the 18th. I mean, birdies and eagles are going to be flying. You're going to see it here, Day and Rory. And Rory misses a short one and Day wins one up.
Wah, wah, wah.
John Rahm defeats Brendan Todd, and Rahm moves on past to Jason Day. Both guys shoot 65, and Rahm goes to the semifinals against Jordan Spieth.
I wouldn't hate it if those 4 are the ones that came in. The only reason I would hate it is because they're your picks. However, when you look at it, this is the beauty of this match play. If I'm JT and I'm looking at my bot, I say, I got to play against Louis and Kisner, the defending champion, by the way, and Matt Kuchar, who with his experience can be good anytime. And then you look at some of the pods in this region. If I'm Rahm, I've got Palmer, Lowry, and Munoz. If I am in that Berger, English, Todd Van Ruin, how did that grouping get put together? And then JT's like, I got, but it's all computerized. And there's 4 different groups, and there's one guy from each group. So you technically have like a 15 and a 17 in the same grouping. It's possible. All right. So with Rahm, I've got Rahm coming out of this grouping. He's going to beat Scheffler. And the reason I'm picking Scotty Sheffield is because I interviewed him on the show yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And he talked about how motivated he is. He talked about how he feels like his game's in a pretty good place. And he's also very motivated. And I think this is important that he's playing in the town he played college in, the University of Texas, and there are fans coming out. And he says, I really feed off the fans, and they love us here, whether it's Spieth, Fratelli, Scheffler. They're going to be rooting for the hometown boys. So I think I've got Scheffler winning his pod and also beating Cam Smith. And then I've got John Rahm beating Brendan Todd in his part of this bracket. So my final 4 consists of Casey, D Chambeau, Justin Thomas, and Mr. John the Bulldog Rahm. And I feel great about my final 4.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you like chalk, right? It's just chalk.
But if you look at the history of this event, it usually ends up getting to chalk. You get the points on those early matchups. You get the points on the ones coming out of the pods, because how you get there is the sauce. That's how people win these brackets, is those extra points.
Yeah.
And you almost have to do chalk at the end. I'm not saying it's going to end up this way, but that's best, historically speaking.
Right.
All right, now let's go to your final four. What two guys do you have going to the championship match on Sunday?
Well, I've got Terrell Hatton in there, right, as the 8 seed against Bryson, who is the 5 seed. And this is going to be a good match, right? Because Hatton's going to come right at him as the bulldog. I just think Bryson is cruising right now, though. You know, he's focused. Okay. No one is putting the time in than Bryson D Chambeau is. Everyone has a kid, a family, you know, like, and Bryson's like, all right, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to go hit my driver another 500 times on the driving range. Yeah. So I think Bryson continues here his great play, and he moves into the semifinals. And I think he's going to take on Jon Rahm. Spieth, again, continuing his good play. Going to come up a little bit short here against the number 3 seed, Jon Rahm, as he just continues to elevate his game. 9th at the Players' Championship. Let's go ahead and move it in now. Well, probably going to win this heading into Augusta.
That would be an incredible final matchup. By the way, can you imagine how that conversation is going to go if and when Bryson settles down? Honey, you have to come home at night. You have to come home at night. Right. You have no choice. You have no choice.
No, I don't. I need to go hit my driver 50 more times.
Yeah, under the lights.
Yeah.
All right. So we actually, with all of the picks that we make, we actually, when it comes down to the final two, we agree on one. We agree on one, and that is Bryson D Chambeau.
Okay.
Because I just think this is made for him and what he is doing right now. And the fact that other players, Trav, are admitting to chasing distance. They're admitting that he is affecting how they train and what they want their goals to be. And if that's the case, if you play against that guy, then I don't care how big of a star you are, it's going to be in your head, because the biggest star, or one of the top 5, already talked about it, and that's Rory Mcilroy. So I got DeChambeau beating Paul Casey, and then I got JT beating Jon Rahm. I like competitors. I like guys that want to step on the neck, and when they step on the neck, they don't let off. And I think that Thomas, for about 2 months, was getting soft, and I say that in a good way. Soft because, as far as his killer mentality, because of everything that he was going through. That win locked him back in. It's got him back saying, wait a second. There's a reason I want to win 40 times out here on the PGA Tour. There's a reason I've got to now get back to being the best dynamic leader in the locker room. And this is a great way to do it by playing well this week. So my final is DeChambeau Thomas. And then the third place game match is Casey and Jon Rahm. And by the way, there's a lot of money to be played for when they have to come back out and play the 18 in the afternoon. But, you know, for a lot of these guys, if you say, hey, it's going to be the difference between 200 grand and 400 grand, for some, it might not matter. I don't know how many would be in that case, but it's a mental thing. It's a mental grind to have to come back out after you've lost that semifinal matchup, Trav.
Yeah. No, those are good points. I think, we're both big on Bryson, as that's not a shock to anybody. But I think, the winner for me, as you look at Bryson versus Rahm, I think it's time for Jon Rahm to get that win. You look at him historically, he kind of builds up to this. His last win was the BMW. He won the Memorial before that. And then as he's come back into the season, it's just kind of, 13th, 5th, 9th. You just kind of get the feeling he's kind of piecing it together. Nothing's really clicked completely yet. He hasn't had his A game. And I think Jon Rahm's a big time competitor. I think he's no question one of the best players in the world. And I think this is a good venue for him. He'll get it out there consistently. He's a good iron player. He's obviously very crafty around the greens, and he's a wonderful putter. So I think it's time for Rahm to step that putter up. It's been a little chilly. I would say with Rahm, that's the reason.
I would say that
the putter's been just a little chilly. And at the Players, it just kind of, you saw a little spark. It warmed up just a little bit, positive 2.1. And he's like, oh, okay, there it is. Now here comes positive 6.1 strokes gained putting. And your Dell Technology champion, Jon Rahm.
He's also very intimidating. And I don't think we can understate how intimidation plays a role in this match, even though it's 64 of the top 69 players in the world. For me, it came down to who is going to make the approach shot that needs to be made when I need it on 15 or 16 or 17. And right now, the best iron player, and to me, it's not close right now, today, is Justin Thomas. And we saw what he did on the weekend at an incredibly tough course in the Players. And I think he's going to go to Austin. He posted a video the other day about how he's shifting his feet a little bit to get a little bit more of a draw so he can get more distance, which I thought was interesting. And the fact that he's out there working on his own, he had the shorts on, so clearly it was a practice round. And to be thinking like that ahead of this week, I think tells me he is super, super, super engaged from the start. And that's the thing about this tournament that's different than what he did as the Players. He barely made the cut and then won it on the weekend. If you're not engaged on Wednesday and you lose that match, it may not matter what you do the rest of the way. If somebody goes 3-0, even if you go 2-1, you've got to be ready from the first tee shot. And a guy like him with his mentality, he's got that. So my winner is going to be Justin Thomas, with Paul Casey coming in third in that matchup. But JT is my 2021 WGC-Dell Technologies match play champion, and he would pocket Trav over $4 million in 2 weeks if he gets it done.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a lot of cash right there. Not that a lot of cash. It, but it's good to see JT back. You know, he went through a lot there, and man, he was certainly engaged on Saturday, Sunday here in Ponte Vedra, especially on Saturday. That 64 was sensational. He just strikes me more as that stroke play player, feeding off, climbing up the leaderboards, those kinds of things, the momentum.
You could be right. That leads to the one very important question that we still have not hit on.
Yeah.
And that is when the Sports Pub Twitter account sends out that GIF that has an explosion or something on fire and it says your bracket after Friday, which name are they going to tag first? Yours or mine?
Jesus. Well, since I've already got names crossed out, new names in, I actually crossed the name out and then put his name down. So like that kind of shows you where my mentality is at. I mean, this is hard, right? I mean,
it's hard.
It's so hard handicapping golf as it is. And we do a pretty decent job of it here on the show, although I didn't have a great week last week, but we were riding pretty good up to that week.
Nobody did.
It's just hard. You know, I mean, people start popping up out of nowhere, especially here, because what happens is you have a guy play great golf and get beat by one because a guy chipped in twice. Mm-hmm. You have a guy play horrible golf and win his match. So there's a little luck involved here, how guys play. And you can't really predict that when someone's going to have a really special day, make everything and shoot 65. And yet he loses because this guy shot 64 and chipped in twice.
That's a great point. And for those people who are new to golf betting, this is where we educate and we entertain. Be very, very careful, because the difference is, this is the best way to put it. If somebody shoots a 65 on Thursday and you got him in a head up against somebody who shoots a 64, you're still probably going to keep an eye on the guy, even though you lost on Thursday, for his round on Friday or Saturday, because he's in form. He just got beat by a really red hot player that day. But in match play, you see somebody win and you just blindly, he won his match on Wednesday. He could have shot a 74 in that matchup and still won. So be very, very, very careful and really do your homework before you make the head-to-head matchups in this. I would say this, that there are, Trav, I would look at our brackets, whether it's Travis's or mine, and there are futures. And what I mean by future is you could pick DeChambeau to come out of his region, out of his pod. There's all kinds of those bets that I think are really, really attractive, so people can dive into those as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's always going to be that name that pops up that you're probably not thinking about. Like I said, 17%, the lowest ranked player in that pod is going to come out. I think it's 33% is going to be the top seed coming out of there. So, that's a fairly close split, when you really think about it, the top seed versus the lowest seed. So who is it? Who's that guy that you were not thinking about? And as I start going, Eric Van Rooyen is someone that I was looking at that I think could certainly come out of there. That Bezuidenhout, right? That's a guy that I think could certainly make some noise at the 33 seed. But I went with Fratelli. He's a guy that that I think can come out of that pot at 64. And then also Brian Harmon, who is playing great golf. I think he's someone that could very easily go out there and light you up with his wedges and his putter and come on out.
Some smart aleck yesterday on the research show. I instead of completely butchering a name, I will just say Christian B or something like that. So I said, hey, it's Christian B, because I always mess up his last name. So some clown on Twitter says, Coach, is it your job as the host to be able to say the last name? So I said, isn't it your job to shut it and I'll host and you watch? I didn't hear from him again. I do not know what happened. Not, yeah. I know how to say it. Sometimes I just, it's the entertainment side. You don't want to just, it's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
All right. So I've got JT and you have John Rahm.
Yes.
Oh, I can't wait for this. All right, everybody, you have your marching orders. Fill out your brackets. Don't forget, it starts on Wednesday, not on Thursday. Don't go tomorrow morning and look to fill out a bracket. And all of a sudden you've got shut out. All right. Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. For Travis Fulton, for our entire crew, our incredible partners at Sports Pub Media, let's have a great next 5 days. And remember, this is the only place that every single week you can cash out with the coaches. Take care. Good luck.